Hi, I'm Katie Crane, and this is the Pilates Lounge. Hi everyone, I'm Katie Crane, the Pilates professional. Welcome to another episode of the Pilates Lounge. This week, I am interviewing a 95-year-old student of the Pilates method. And I really wanted just to hand over the microphone to this person so that she could take center stage and share her story with you. So the way that it happened was we started talking, and before I knew it, we had already been chatting for about 20 minutes and we had not even started the interview. But this person had a very special request that she just wanted to not necessarily answer questions in a normal podcast style. She just wanted us to have a conversation. So at some stage, I literally press record and we continue the conversation. So it's not our average journey at all. Now, the person that I interview found Pilates in 1959 at the age of 29. A newspaper article piqued her interest as she was suffering from a sore back, and the person in the article reminded her of a strong lion with a mane of thick white hair and a very muscular body, which this person says was quite unusual for the age. Her Pilates instructor was, of course, Joseph Pilates. Today, in response to International Pilates Day or World Pilates Day, which we celebrate on the first Saturday of May, I have the pleasure and the honor of having a conversation with Mary Bowen. Mary Bowen is one of the last students recognized as a Pilates elder, which means that she was not only taught by Joseph and Clara Pilates, but after 10 years of self-practice, she was finally invited to become a Pilates instructor. This is the way that Pilates was. This was the route of becoming a Pilates instructor back in the day. Yes, things have changed. Mary first worked as an entertainer before stepping into a career as a psychoanalyst in 1970. She didn't even start Pilates until 1975 at the age of 40. And today she merges the two practices to offer a service she coins Pilates and Psych. I hope that you enjoy this conversation that I had with Mary Bowen as much as I did. You will have to forgive me for the background and sometimes the foreground noise of the roosters because of the time difference. I'm, of course, in Australia and Mary is in America. So while the sun was just coming up on me, it was setting on her. Hence the roosters in the background, and they do become part of our conversation along the way. Thanks so much for joining me. Sit down, take a cup of joe, and listen in on one of our last remaining Pilates elders, Mary Bowen.
Brought everybody home.
You're okay.
They worked from home when there was a danger. And we found we could work perfectly well from home. And we didn't need the office. We didn't need to go anywhere. And I was just 90 when it came in. I'm 94 now. So it's just wonderful when you're in your 90s not to have to be packing and going on planes and going all over the place. I've been to Melbourne and I've been to Sydney. So I've done my Australia, and I still have the pajamas that they give you on the plane when you come from the U.S. Then they give you. I still wear those pajamas, and the top has a big bolt of lightning going across the chest. Very nice pajamas that Australia gives you when you come from the States. And everybody changes in the bathroom. Everybody puts on these great pajamas.
Yeah, I've done the trip as well. It's so cute, isn't it? That everybody goes from their aeroplane outfit to their matching nighttime outfit.
Yeah. Well, they took good care of us with the night sleep.
Yeah. So tell me, are you still working from home? Are you still teaching?
Yeah. I work from home. I teach. We don't let everybody in. We're very careful because my husband's very immune deficient. And so we try to do it either virtual, do a very lot over the phone for dream analysis, which is better when you're working with the contents of your unconscious. you go deeper with two ears and two voices than you do with eyes. Eyes are a distraction to the unconscious.
Right. So when you're teaching now, you really do a mixture of your Pilates and your psych?
Well, I am such a mixture myself. I started in 1959 at the age of 29 with both specialties. I started with Joe and Clara, and I started with a wonderful Dutchman who was a Jungian analyst in New York City. And I had no idea that I was going to become either one. No intention. I just went so deep and was asked to do both. I was finally asked to analyze dreams after about 11 years of it. And in 1 year, I had 23 people every week. I mean, it was just like a fire. So I don't think it's always necessary to plan what you should become and go to school for it if you are in your own self born to it. And that's what I found I was. So that's been a privilege. I've never had to, I've never advertised either for Pilates or for working with the dream psych, with the psyche. They just come. They find me. I don't advertise that. And I know that's possible because it happened. So I don't think we have to just push everything through. We have to let things become what they're meant to be, too. And if you work ever with your dreams, the unconscious that we're born with as a child has the idea of your potential in mind from the very beginning. And it's always teaching you something in each dream that you wouldn't know or didn't know yet. So Alex reminded me, look at the green light because otherwise you're looking down when I sing you. And it's really hard to look at the green light, but that's better for our viewing of each other. So, uh,
Yeah, I don't mind maybe.
so I was asked to analyze dreams, and then in 1975, I'd been 6.5 years with Joe and Clara, and then twice a week. And he said you had to go 3 times a week. But had to take the train from New Haven, which was difficult. So I said I could only do 2 times a week. And if you refused him anything he really thought was necessary, he did a kind of it's just as if he'd swallowed his tongue. And that was his acceptance that that's all he could get from me. He was a character, but he was very, very formative to those of us that needed to get it connected with our body. And he gave and gave and gave, and he and Clara were there, and they repeated themselves from the time he came in 1926 until about 1966, he couldn't work anymore. He was ill. And he had ruined his lungs when a fire had happened in the storage room, and he'd gone back there to see what he lost, and he damaged himself. So that was just about 2 or 3 more years he lasted after that. What do you want to know? Why did the two of them come together? Well, in 1975, I was asked to teach Pilates, and I'd been doing it 16 years. And you did not do Pilates, you were not expected to or be allowed to teach unless you've done it 10 years. And now it's like 2 weekends. You know, now you go to learn to teach it as you learn to do it. To an old timer like me, that's nonsense. You grow into a teacher by the ways that your body responds to the method yourself. And that continues all your life long. Your body sends you more and more information. And uh, that you become quite creative as a Pilates teacher when you've been doing it 54 years. And why did I bring the two together? One day in the studio I had in Northampton, Mass, then I had 3 or 4 teachers. It was full of people, and one client was having a nervous breakdown with one of the teachers, just hysterical. And then she called me over. I talked to the woman, and I could see that she was young. She wasn't very well connected with her body yet, and she was expecting too much of it. And I said, It's just, you will get to this. I calmed her down and spoke typology to her, and she was fine then. And the whole studio had been on edge, listening in on this thing. And from that day on in 1995, I was expected to be both the Pilates teacher and the Jungian analyst, same time. And that was that. And I didn't ever even think it up. I thought the difference was very interesting. One was passive, one was hyperactive. So that's 27 years that I've done the combination, and I can't not look for the whole person, expect to find the whole person, and know that I can help everyone if they understand why they're having trouble with certain aspects of their lives, because you haven't worked with that yet, and maybe never will, but it's certainly you're very good at what you're born that lies right in the little ego of the baby and the little child. Those functions you're very good at, but they're opposites that are in the unconscious. And that's the biggest work of your life is to get yourself familiar with that. You come in creatively and spiritually from there, not from your ego. So it's a good value I'm able to give to people if they're ready, if they're hungry for more of themselves.
And could you, Mary, please paint us a picture of what your first practice was like? When you first found Pilates as a movement practice, could you paint us a picture of that?
Well, yes, you went into that studio. You were it was very democratic. Nobody was more regarded than anyone. Joe and Clara were very good at that. And Hannah, a German woman who looked sort of very male, very strong, strong bare legs, strong bare arms, and a great person. She took you on, and every new person she taught the essence of the mat and the reformer beginnings. And you had maybe 5 lessons. And after that, you never had a whole lesson again for 6.5 years, twice a week. Absolutely remembered everything Anna told you. You were responsible for your own teaching, and they watched you. Joe would watch you. Hannah would be busy teaching someone new, and Clara would come out of the little office and she would watch you. And when they felt you were ready, they gave you another aspect, add another exercise. So you kept growing in it, but as they thought you were ready. And I think we baby people too much now. I think we overteach them. I don't think they discover themselves as well. And so, but we're in that phase of maybe over mothering or over giving, you know. I don't know if you feel that in Australia. I think it's just the way women tend to be, is too much service is provided. And I always say, leave the room for 5 minutes, no matter who you're teaching, just to see what happens with that person. Have they done anything? Are they working on anything you said? Or do they just lie there and wait for mommy to come back? You know, it's interesting. Now that's psyche too. Even that is trying to teach that person how to learn from themselves in their own body. And if you're starting out, maybe you give them certain forms. But oh, I love hearing the rooster. I love hearing we
I tell you what, I swear he waits. He knows that you're here, and he waits until we're just really getting into our conversation, and then he starts singing to us right from under the house.
uh, I've had roosters, and I found a rooster to be the most aggressive male I've ever met in my life. But it's because I adopted them from a tenant I had in a cabin, and he had hens, and they were all picked off by foxes, and the only one was left. Now that was his responsibility, and that I interfered at all and made a friend of that hen, he did not appreciate me for that. So I would have her come in because she was missing her female friends. I'd have her come into my studio and she would sit in front of one of the mirrors and just look at the hen, and she missed seeing another one like her. And then when I let her out, and we were got quite affectionate with the little hen, he would attack me, and he would attack my legs. And so when I had to walk him back to his cabin and put him in his little pen, I carried a garden rake, one of those grass rakes, just to protect myself. And I loved him because when the fox got him and he was no longer in the pen, he was gone, but his feathers were all around. The fox got that, and I cried for the loss of him. And I thought, look at that. You love that in spite of that he was so nasty. And I don't know if yours, they're very dominating roosters. You know, and when he was when a friend brought me the rooster and said, I said, "My
Mm.
hen is
Yeah,
is
yeah, they are.
lonely." "Oh, well," she said, "I have it. I'll bring you a chicken." And she brought me what turned out to be the rooster. And he had never heard a crow. He didn't know when he was growing up, and he would go, "Oh, oh, oh," and I would go, "Oh, oh," and then again, "Oh, oh, oh," I would say, until he learned it. I think he thought I was a rooster. So we also I don't know, are they good together, or is that the lead rooster I'm hearing now? Yeah, they yeah, they can't they don't learn the whole song. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the lead rooster at the moment, and you're right. When they first are becoming roosters, yeah, it sounds like a teenage boy while his voice is breaking, and he has to learn to crow.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, shining poet. Yeah. Yeah. No, I love nature. I don't expect to be talking to Australia and hearing a rooster. So that's delightful.
Yeah, but they're the most beautiful birds. They got the most beautiful feathers, so we keep them. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're very majestic.
And I've heard the dog once too, one of the dogs. How about the cat? Is there only one cat or two cats?
Ah, mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the one cat, 3 dogs and 1 cat. So the cat really is the boss of everyone.
Oh yeah. You don't train a cat. You meet a cat on its own terms. And you know what? When you have a dream and in your dream is a cat,
No.
it means it's the feminine.
Mhm.
And I try to teach women, this is your teacher. Now why? Because she puts herself first.
Mm.
She is never duplicitous. She's always honest. And she keeps herself forever beautiful. That's the feminine. Now try to imitate that. That's our teacher. We don't know how to put ourselves first easily yet. We've served the world so long. Though I don't know if you need it. Maybe you've already established that with your husband.
Mm. Mhm. And do you think when it comes to dreams, do you learn how to remember dreams better? Like, what do you do? Do you write down your dreams to decipher them?
Yeah, you learn you do learn to make it a habit because it's just something that's natural. But if you're going to work to learn from your unconscious, and it's the best teacher you have in the world, it's all about you, no one else. And it's a teacher trying to bring you to your own potential. But people don't even know they have an unconscious, let alone that they think the dreams are nothing. But you only dream about what you don't know. He's a loudmouth. He You have to show me him at the end, if you can. I don't know if you can. Show me the rooster. Yeah.
Oh, I won't be able to, Mary.
Yeah.
He doesn't let us get too close to him. He really does guard the girls. And you mentioned before when you were painting a picture of your time in the studio with Joe and
Well,
Clara that you spent a lot of time
yeah.
learning the
Well,
work in
I
your
was
own
invited,
body, a
but,
10-year process before you and then would you be invited to become a teacher, or was it just a natural progression?
I was 6.5 years there until he was still too ill to teach. And no one ever again taught like Joe and Clara. No one ever let you alone with yourself as much. And he had so many types of people, all levels of us. Some of us were dancers, but some of us were just coming because we had a body. We were intuitive when we were born out of the body, and we knew we needed to work on our bodies. And so that is it's still surprising for people to learn that she's trusted us with ourselves. And they knew that the main thing was that we do the work on our own body, and that every exercise was about the whole body. That's forgotten a little too much. That every part of you is aware of whatever you're doing. And we were great teachers. We became, we were getting so well along with ourselves that not all of us went on. I went on for 56 years, I took lessons for me with other teachers. When he was too ill, I went to Bob Seed, 7 years. Then I went to Romana, 7 years. Then I went to Kathy Grant, 7 years. I didn't even know it was 7 years. I thought, well, then there really is a 7-year itch. And then after Kathy's, I went to Bruce King. And then I went to my own people that I'd already taught, who were then in New York teaching. And the best, then I went 20 years with a dancer. And I just felt that I wanted somebody else's eyes on me to see what was going on according to them. But the best teaching I started to do was from 80 on. My teacher had gone to live in Canada. And I was then taught totally all the time by my body. And it was so wise. And if I put classical music on with it, because I'm very musical innately, and the body knows beat, it knows rhythm, it loves it. You don't have to teach it that. And if you get on a sore spot and you're going to work on that spot in your hip or your knee or whatever sore, and you're going to that music, and you go to that music until that symphony's over. If it's a symphony, you don't have any problems anymore. It's almost the music and the body together fixed you. And you couldn't go to a PT and be fixed that well because this is your own inner knowledge. You're listening to your own sensation. And I just became more and more creative from 70 on, I think. That was 70 on, yeah. And things that I've added to the method came to me from 70 on, that I just whole new things I've added. And I don't push it. People ask for it to get it. I'll send them the things. But I believe that each one of us should be allowed to be creative about our own bodies. And depending on your typology, if you were born first function in your psyche, in your ego, intuitive, you were born in the air, in the spirit, like a wind. You're going faster than an airplane. You're just taking in things all the time. You have no time to be in your body. What does your body do? What does you do when he has this little kid who's just like a whiz kid? Well, what I think the body of the intuitive does is it tightens every single part of the body, tongue, jaw, every single thing is tight to hold you to earth, because otherwise you'd fly away. It makes sense. So then your whole longest journey to make, if that body then for you is at the bottom of your unconscious, not even fully born into your life, and your main work as an intuitive is become part of earth, become one with mother nature. That's your business. Now if you're born thinking first, you've got to learn to live from the opposite, from your heart. Totally the opposite, you see. If you're born in the body first, you've got to learn to be totally intuitive, just belong to the universe. Very hard to turn your skin inside out. That's what the dream will be working to give you, to grow you into your whole self. And, you know, I wasn't here to teach you about the psyche, but everybody needs to know it. So it comes up. Everybody could be growing their whole self. And only since Carl Jung, though, somebody had to live it, someone had to discover the structure of a psyche, and whether that's an introvert or an extrovert, which are you good at, what are you not good at, and he had to live this thing out and wonder if he would ever come back from the depth of his own journey into his unconscious. And he had to live it out all the way till he had gone from a brilliant genius thinker into total heart. And if somebody lives it, it's available to all of us. Somebody has to live the new thing. So I constantly coming into my body. I'll be 95 my next birthday. I am just able, at the end of last year, I've worked on this all my life. Try to release, try to release, try to let go. All kinds of stretches, all kinds of lengthening, everything that you could do that would maybe help you to let go. But you're just like this, you're turned on, you know, and to get that to just all the way let go happened by the end of last year. I'm sitting in a chair. I don't have a thought in my head. First time in my life, I am just being. I have made it to the bottom of the unconscious. The sensate is now available to me. And so when Joe was a sensate thinker, he didn't have to discover his body. He knew his body. He didn't know our psyches. He didn't wasn't interested that way. He didn't bother to learn our names. Nobody. We were there twice a week, 6.5 years. He never knew my name. He knew my body. He knew he was interested in this, that, and the other, and that's what we went to him for. But to him, we were extensions of himself. Big ego there. But we didn't mind. He didn't mind who he was. He was giving us new ways to know ourselves. So when I was asked to teach, I did it 20 years. I lived in 3 states a week, New York City, then to Northampton, Mass, and back home to Connecticut, because there were pockets of people in all these places. They couldn't all come to one place. And we didn't have computers. We didn't have Zoom, you know, didn't have this kind of thing. So I just grew. The longer you do it, if you can't say every week is a little different from the week before, you're not being true to your own creativity. You know, so now if a person comes to me, I don't train them. Now these are all the exercises you must be able to teach. I did it one summer, and I had to say no. I cannot make every person in this class do the same thing when I see that each one needs something different. So that was my specialty, to help you get to your own weak spot. It was 20 years separate, and then there was that episode that made me useful to the whole person. And I don't say everybody else. I say, what are you most needing to become in your own Pilates practice? It shouldn't be a repetition of anybody else. There's never been anybody like you, and you're discovering your own uniqueness as long as you're alive. That's what I would point out. And you get a lot of egotistical training centers, but they just want to make money. They need to make money, so they have to say they're the best. Nobody's the best. Now that's how where I, after so many years, 64 years of living it and 49 years of teaching it, if a person comes, and they come because they know they're going to be something's going to happen with Mary Bowen, it's just known, but they come to see what I can discover that they haven't yet or something. But where are they? And I don't, even if I see somebody for a long time, I don't say, now next week we'll do this and this. Where are they each time? And that's where we work from. And it's a kind of honor to have the freedom to do that. And you can't be a training center and teach from there, but you can say you ought to get to the point where you can do that with yourself and with anybody. you know. So then it's just wildly exciting and new every time because you're in the creative experience. So I find it never has dried up. The older I get, the more I know which things to do. I invent new things. I invent huge numbers of stretches of springs and straps that pull me way longer every day than I would be otherwise so that I won't shrink. I just go right at it. And if it feels good and I know I need it, I'll find a way to do it. How long have you been teaching, Katie? 7?
Since 2007. So what's that? 17, yeah, about 17 years, something like that. Yeah. Mhm.
17. Do you feel the evolution in yourself? Do you feel the changing? Enormous. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And every couple of years, I take some time to really reflect on, what I've learnt over those couple of years and how far I've come. And I definitely resonate with what you say. I feel like there's an educated intuition that becomes a part of what we share with a client as they walk in. I never have a plan either with a client. I just wait for them to come in and feel into that,
Yeah.
what emotions they bring into the class and the conversation that starts, and then we work from there. And the magic really does happen in that individualized session, just when we create the space for the person.
It's hard with a class. With a group, it's hard. You need to have a structure.
Mm,
You'll need it more, but one to one, it's just beautiful.
mhm. Yeah.
And do you have your studio at home? Is it there at home with you?
No, I have a studio in the city, so about 140
Yeah.
kilometres. So what's that? About 90 miles from where I live. So I go in
Oh,
there twice a week, and there's a community of us that teach there. So I've got some beautiful instructors who we all work together, and we all do our own thing but come together. It's a really lovely community.
that's lovely. Yeah, it is. Pilates is beautiful. It's not, you know, certain things that they scare you to death. That you have to have so many degrees and you have to have gone to this much schooling. And the body is much more available every day for to learn something. And then the older you get, the wiser you are. It's fortunate. You still meeting your body. Now this year I'm because I have that relaxation capacity now. The body is organizing itself now. The mind is not doing it. And boy do I know the difference in just how I feel. And I said, "Oh, now stop, get out of the way. Start with your foot. Go to your little toe. Right from the little toe comes the arrangement of the fascia up to the hamstring into the core. The whole thing is being built from the foot, even from the tiniest part of the foot." And I think, this is brilliant. You can't think this up. You can't make it happen because the mind doesn't really know the body. It's just a bunch of cells up here. It doesn't know the body. You want it? I'll dare anyone to try to tell me that the mind knows what the body is. The body can teach the mind, and then you have something new going on. It's just so interesting. And, I think Joe, I don't think he'd be expecting it. One of us that really took it
It's
on.
fascinating.
But, Clara would be in she would see that there's so much work for that person to do that that person might do it, you know? And she didn't neither one of them spoke. It would be, if anything, a word, and what you felt was their touch. And there was one time when I was trying for a long stretch off the Cadillac, standing outside it, because I was always tight. And she saw this. She saw the difference between the left and the right side because I'm left-handed. And she came over to me. She put her hand fully on my lower right ribs, and she said, "Here." To this day, I am still learning to open those ribs. They never opened, and she could see everything went open. You said that, and I could still feel her hand, hear her. So little and taught so much. And he would be, if you were doing a on the mat and you're doing a forward stretch with the bar and your feet are on the boxes,
Mm.
you're just doing that and you're just trying for more. And the bear starts walking up your back, this big weighted like paws of a bear, and it's 1, 2, 3, and you go zooming ahead. You had no idea you could be that long. And that would be Joe's way to just friendly bear, you know, very animal.
Hmm. And if you could reflect on, all of the years that you have served your community, all of the years that you've had the pleasure of teaching people, what is one thing that you have really gotten out of your teaching?
I'm still learning for myself new things, and I I've taught them all to go looking for that, either in their own selves or in their clients. That I don't hang on to anybody. I just it's the moment. I really do live the moments now because I finally can. So I'm known because I've been around the world, but I don't live off it. I'm living off the next new thing that I come into or that I can bring them into. And I guess I just love creativity, and the body loves to show it to us. And you say like, well, what should I was just going to say one thing you wanted to know. One question that you can be asked is, how do you think Pilates should develop? Was one of your questions.
And when you talk about, mm, no, you go.
The way you develop, each one of us, all completely uniquely. It stays alive to the degree that it's working for you and you and you, and not as a got to get a license with this studio or that studio. That may make some money for the time being. That doesn't spread the method. And I would also say, don't ever think you're not important because uh, the teachers work so hard to learn. They really, a lot of them are very dedicated. And I always say, don't think that they just come for Pilates. They're also coming for you. That relationship is really mattering to them, and it may be an important one in their lives because they haven't taken care of their bodies, a lot of people. But, I was so tight as a young person, and it served me well. I was in theater. Then everybody wanted me to be a big comedian. Well, I just I couldn't open to what I could already do. I was really caught by what I couldn't do yet. And that was in the body. And I thought, well, maybe I'm a neurotic that maybe I have this neurosis that can't say yes because so many people were disgusted with me that I didn't go into big time. And I went over to this analyst that some of my Yale friends had found in New York City. And I was just going to ask him, what do you think about this problem I have? Everybody's saying they see what I should be. And I don't even think I got that question out to this man. The moment I sat down and it was psyche to psyche, I was home. I was where I was meant to be, and I hadn't thought it out, but I was not about big outer time. I was about the deepest possible inner journey I could make. That was where I found my work. And I didn't know it would ever be a career. See, I so much believe in our own self discovery, and I think we need to give that appetite to the people that come to us. They don't just do what I do. What do you do here? And other people that would say I'm a no, okay, you go ahead. We can make up.
Do you find, no, you're fine. When you work with somebody, do you spend a lot of time observing and listening to then allow for them to find their own way?
It's both end because they're not going to be brave enough to take over. You're encouraging I'm very intuitive, so I can suggest things that are going to put them more in touch with what they need to do and can't do yet. You know, and they all need reminding that it's the whole body, and everybody thinks they have this problem. Well, that's just work on it from the foot up. And I think psyche has stymied the body so much with, an intuitive's just not in the body. And, if you have intuitive clients, I'll bet you there's not one of them that has a B cup in the breast. They're almost all flat chested because they never breathe. And you think, well, how can you live and not breathe? You never take a breath into your chest. You know, you don't have time. You're too busy. You're too full. You're brilliant in what you're brilliant at, but it's not body. So there's going to be a lot of effort going to have to be made for the body.
Can you touch on those typographies a little bit more, Mary? So you've said that there's the intuitive, and then there's the person of the mind, and can you touch on them a little bit more?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, the structure, yeah. And it was Carl Jung who left Freud, and if there were 4 of them went back to Zurich, and they left Freud because they couldn't believe life was just about sex. And beyond that, there had been this big banquet in Zurich. All the analysts were there at a big long table, and Freud was a little man across from Jung, who was a great big man. And for some reason, never had done it before, Jung let himself speak, and the spirit spoke. And Freud just fainted dead away. He couldn't take it. And then so Jung got up and he went around the table and picked him up, carried him into the next room, put him on a sofa, and he just knew, I have to go. I can't stay. So they get down to Zurich. Now, what is there? What? How do we know anything? What is the mind? What is the psyche? They knew it was more than sex. They'd had enough of it being forced that way. And just in talking together, they did this wonderful, quiet, intense between the 4 of them. How do you know anything? Now, Jung certainly was brilliant intellectually, so they knew there was a thinker. And then they knew finally that up comes one of them who's a feeler. And that's a little bit difficult for the thinker because it doesn't seem as important. It seems not so strong. And that analyst that was a feeling first did not stop holding it is exactly as important as thinking, which it is. Now that's one set of opposites. That there's thinking and there's feeling. And every one of us has both. Now where? If you're thinking first, the opposite of that is going to be the bottom of the unconscious. The farthest the most unborn you are is your feeling if you're a thinker. And then another one of those analysts, that certainly established those two are partly how we live and what we learn from. There was another there that was a physical one, athlete, more athletic, and that's called sensate. It's you learn from sensation and tissue and all of that. And those are the people, and Joe Pilates was one of them, who live in the body, in the moment, and are just present. They don't intuit much of anything else. It's very hard to leave what is just here. And you're so comfortable in that there's not much motivation even to know all sorts of other things. So that's the handicap of it. But here's the body person. Then what it's its opposite is what I was born at, as a roaring intuitive, just but in the air, not even hitting the ground, and constantly moving, taking things in, the next new thing, always coming in. And you know, it's it's delicious because it's curious about everything in life, but it's very hard on the body. There's no time to breathe. And the most wonderful story about a man in Joe's studio, a very beautiful, beautifully built man, a doctor, was The two of us were alone in that studio one day. He had come in. He was getting on the reformer where you started your work. I had finished, and I was resting, hoping, relaxing, pretending to relax, but it's my way of relaxing over the little barrel, small barrel, before you got ready to go. And that Joe would like you to do if you could. So I'm there and lying there thinking I'm relaxing. For me, that was a relaxing position. And the voice came over from this doctor, 2 machines over, take a breath. And I turned to him and said, I don't have time to breathe. It was true. Life would have had to stop dead in its tracks. There was no way to stop. He said, that's the saddest thing I ever heard. And yet I could do all the Pilates exercises, perform them. The body could do it. I could work with the body, on the body, for the body. I couldn't breathe till I was 55. And at 55, after 26 years of doing Pilates, I could yawn. Just think it, and I could do it. I never could yawn. There was no way to open it. It was just going. So that's a delicious experience to be so open to everything and intuitive, but believe me, tough on the body. And it tough took me 93 years. I've slowed it down. I can do either or. And I don't think yeah, I can talk so much now that I'm not breathing. Take a breath, yeah. I always, my whole life, will have to remember take a breath, take a yawn. It's hard when you're having an interview. But there was a little one, and everyone, you're more yourself. Everyone, that's nature's best breath, the yawn. What were we talking about?
You were very succinctly expressing the different typographies that, of the psyche.
Oh yeah. Okay. Okay. We had the sensate and the intuitive opposites. One ground, one air, and we have thinking and then feeling. Now, thinking is often thought as air too, like an airplane. If you have an airplane in your dream, that's your thinking function. You know, there the symbolism is fascinating. We're taught who we are through the dream, but they have to use some language because we're born where we're born and talk the talk we talk. But so if you have as a baby, you're you're going to have two of those sets of opposites will be in your conscious. There will be one or the other, and you're thinking intuitive, or I was an intuitive feeler, or Joe was a sensate thinker. And, there are 8 arrangements of how those could be in a variety of places. And then you times 2, because also what they discovered, this was not known before Jung, you're either born introverted or extroverted, one or the other. Not to be only that, you go half the life as the one that you're born as, the second half of your life, you become the opposite. In the end, a whole person is the potential outcome now. First time in history. First time the knowledge how to work with the psyche and everything toward a whole thing. It's amazing to be alive now. You know, so much more, especially women know it. The spirits touched us there. We know it. We're growing. Men are kind of, some of them, self-satisfied still. Haven't discovered there's more than you. There's a lot more. There's a whole other side of you. The other side, when you haven't worked with it, it feels negative. It's just full of all the things that are just terrible and uh, impossible to do. And who would want to? You know, I tried to get my own dad to be interested when I was working with dreams, and he said, "Dear, I don't want to know this material about me. It frightens me." He was so sweet a man, and he'd have found he's also a sourpuss too. He didn't need to know that, not in his lifetime. Okay, so other question? We have to stop.
Oh, Mary.
we could do another time.
No, we've got a couple of minutes, so we'll wrap up soon. If you could, yeah, definitely. But
Oh, yeah,
if you could leave the industry
yeah.
with a legacy, which of course you have left, you are a legacy in the industry. What is your hope for the future of Pilates, of movement, of of what it is that you have offered?
Well, the most important work for me is each one of us developing ourselves. The self is the big thing, and it's never been given the time and the attention to see what it can offer. So I am not a business person. I'm an individualist. And I would just ask everyone to make it your own, uh, let your own creativity inform you. I don't think Pilates will disappear. People are trying maybe to make it happen, and they can do it a little bit for a while. But what's really keeping it strong are all the individuals that it's important to, and not so much that we all join as a group and we're all Pilates people. No, we're thankful that that's been part of our own uh, journey. And we do it our own way, and hopefully they'll learn. So I think a bigger thing than Pilates is you, that you discover your work. If it happens to be as a Pilates teacher, fine. If it has to not be that or it has to change in that way, fine. Yeah, I think there's something that is not written. It's always waiting to be written, to be discovered. So I think when I was asked to teach Pilates, I was making this round of three cities a week, and even with a car full of cats at one point, and a dog too, because we went from house to house. And, I've had 85 cats so far, not all at once, but I only have one cat now. I absolutely, I don't know, we have two Westies. We don't have roosters. I'm lonesome for my rooster today. But no, mostly they should know that my legacy is Pilates plus Psyche. That it it is about the you as a person and about the whole body. I think those things are forgotten a little too much. But there's so many ways, so many good teachers, and it's not that this one's better than that. Do what you're doing, let yourself grow, listen to your body. It's a brilliant teacher. And really, we take it way far too for granted. And we wouldn't be here 1 second without it. You know, we I would say that should be your favorite pet is your body. Nice to meet you, Katie. Yeah, I'd like to. I'd, li- I'd like to learn more about you.
Mary, thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate it.
Okay, you're welcome. And goodbye, everybody. Goodbye, Australia.
Well, I'm very, very happy to have another chat at some stage. It's been really, really lovely. Thank you so much, Mary. Thanks so much for joining me with this episode with Mary Bowen, one of the last remaining Pilates elders. Such a fascinating story. And something that really stood out to me was when she told us that she practiced Pilates for 10 years before she was invited to start teaching Pilates herself. Gee whiz, how things have changed, right? You can now become a Pilates instructor in a weekend course. No longer do we have to learn the method so deeply in our own body to be able to call ourselves a Pilates instructor. But for us to maintain the legacy, for us to keep the industry really serving our community, it's so important that we really do put the time that it takes into learning the method properly as an instructor before we go out into the world. And you absolutely must have your eyes on each other to be learning. To learn to become a Pilates instructor does take a lot of self-practice and a mentorship, which is why Pilates Pro Academy offers a 6-month face-to-face and blended virtual learning experience to make sure that when our students step out into the world, they know that they are doing so with respect to the work as it was intended. If you're looking to become a Pilates instructor, or if you're looking to expand your understanding of Pilates as an instructor, then Pilates Pro Academy is for you. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Katie Crane, the Pilates professional, and this is the Pilates Lounge.